Hello and welcome to the Finding Proof podcast. Today I'm sharing this lovely interview with Peace Mitchell, who's the co-founder of AusMumpreneur and also the Women's Business School. Welcome, Peace.
Hello, it's so lovely to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely lovely to have you on board. I've been hearing lots of lovely things about the work that you do through some women that I know in business. And I actually know somebody who was a nominee for an AusMumpreneur award last year, the lovely Jess Cleary from Victoria.
Yes.
So do you want to tell me just a little bit? I'm really curious. As you know, I'm a businesswoman as well, but I'm very curious to know your AusMumpreneur early beginnings came out of a cyclone. Is that how it all began?
Yeah. Yes. So I guess, yes. Back in 2006, I was living in the little town of Innisfail, and Cyclone Larry came to Innisfail, wiped out a lot. Nearly every family was affected in some way. And so my sister and I and a couple of friends, we started a non-profit organisation, and it was called Mothers Helping Others. And we did amazing things to help the community. We held events, we built playgrounds, we published a book of children's stories. We did all sorts of things to try and help get the community back on its feet. But from that experience, we recognised and we found our purpose, really. I realised that when women are happy and healthy within themselves, they have a greater potential to be able to care for and help everyone around them. And so the mother's the most important person in the family, and she needs to be well so that she can care for the children and care for her husband and care for their neighbours and their parents and everyone around them. And so supporting women, and particularly mothers, has been a core driver through everything we've done. We loved Mothers Helping Others, but as a non-for-profit, we weren't getting paid for the work we were doing. And we worked full-time for 2 years without ever being paid for that. And as much as I loved that charity so much, my husband said to me, "This is great what you're doing, but you need to convert your fabulousness to dollars." And so my sister and I were like, okay, yeah, we probably do need to be paid for the work we're doing. Like, it's not fair to just work for free. And we realized that we wanted to help women, we wanted to help mothers, and we wanted to be paid. And so we created, our first project was actually a book. We wrote a book together, a parenting book called What I Wish I Knew Before I Became a Mother. Through promoting that book and selling it and working with people, an opportunity came up to buy an online parenting community called Connect to Mums. So we bought this parenting community and we were running this community. It was an incredible space for women. But what we recognized within that community was a really strong group of women who were starting businesses from home so they could be with their children. And that's really where AusMumpreneur began.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it was back in 2009 at a time when there wasn't a lot of support for women starting businesses from home. And so AusMumpreneur was created to create that support for women.
Wow. You talked about finding your zone, finding your space where you just thrived. And we hear a lot these days, don't we, about finding your passion or finding your why in business. And a lot of people struggle with that as if it's some magical thing that if I just push the right button, I'm going to find my passion hanging on a hook waiting for me. But you stumbled upon it, the cyclone. I mean, it takes an awful lot to bring about a cyclone to find your passion. and yet, that's what led you in this lovely journey. You're quite right there. Women starting businesses from home and wanting the flexibility. As a psychologist, I see that a lot with other mental health professionals who go into private practice. It's one of the things that draws them into private practice is the flexibility to be able to work around their kids, be able to work around a gradual return to work after maternity leave, working around schooling obligations and so on. And do you find that there's an energy, there's an intensity to the energy of mums with small kids? I think about, the school hours CEO, there's such a pressure so much done in that little block of time once the kids are at school. What are some of the great stories that you hear about? I mean, obviously you don't want to share too much in terms of personal stories, but some of the great examples of businesses that seem to just flourish in that school hours block.
Well, what I found is that motherhood's an incredibly creative time for a lot of women. And so they come up with these incredible ideas because they're spending so much time, you know, just stuck in a chair breastfeeding. And so they're thinking about things and solving problems. And so it's a really creative time. But I don't think there's anyone more productive in the world than a mum with young kids, because you have got a small window of time. And if you want to get something done, you're going to have to go hard and be incredibly focused to make that happen. And so these women are very focused. And the women we work with are very ambitious and very driven and really clever women. And they want more from what their previous career could offer them. They want to be their own boss. They want the freedom and the flexibility and the professional fulfillment. So being a stay-at-home mum, like the novelty of that wears off quite quickly, because these women are wanting to get out and do big things, but they don't want to be trapped in that 9 to 5. The 9 to 5 model doesn't work for women. It was never designed for women. It was designed for men. And there's nothing about it that matches the way a woman's day looks. So women, they are very productive in that time, that they might only have a small amount of time, but they can get very focused and make things happen in that time they have.
Yeah, this is so true. I mean, a lot of the women leaders that I'm in connection with are doing that, that juggle, that school hours juggle. And you're quite right. You're even thinking about school hours themselves and the working mum, dropping your kids off at 8:30, 8:45, say, and trying to be in an office by 9 a.m. And then that adds so much pressure to the whole family at the start end of a day, getting everyone out of bed. I'm lucky if my boys are out of bed by 7:45 some days. Mm-hmm. And I think that you're quite right, so that flexibility, the autonomy, the capacity to be one's own boss, and the capacity to be as creative as you can be, because I think that's what a lot of entrepreneurs are, creative thinkers, dreamers in a way, but dreamers in a productive sense of the word too. So tell me a little bit more about the AusMumpreneur Awards. How did they come about?
Well, the AusMumpreneur Awards are all about recognising and acknowledging the achievements that mums in business achieve. It's a way more challenging to be an entrepreneur and have young children than it is just to be an entrepreneur. And, you think of Richard Branson, say, and they just have all of the time just to think about their business, and they don't have to worry about, who's picking the kids up, because someone else will do that, and that would be their wife. And so for women, often, the husbands go back to work and the women are left caring for the children. So to be able to look after children and create these incredible businesses, that's a pretty incredible thing to do. And we've seen women who are creating incredible multi-million-dollar businesses, and that needs to be recognised and acknowledged. And so that's where the AusMumpreneur Awards came from. And I guess it's also about challenging the stereotype of home-based business, because when we first started out back in 2009, a home-based business was seen as a bit of a joke, like it was just a hobby and it wasn't a real business, and they kind of didn't take you seriously. When in fact, we work with women all the time who are creating incredible businesses from home. And so it's about sharing that message that, they are actually serious businesses, and they are bringing millions of dollars to the Australian economy, and they need support, and they need recognition, and they need to be taken seriously. So it's about that acknowledgement for women, but it's also about challenging those stereotypes as well, and getting the message out to the wider public that you need to take these women seriously because they're doing big things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. My grandmother started her own business. I'm a third generation businesswoman, and my grandmother started her business in 1956 from her kitchen table, and she was well, still is alive, she's 90,
Yeah.
an absolute force. And I think that, you know, some of the conversations I plan to have on this podcast actually will be with her, comparing our experiences of being mothers to young children while, you know, establishing our businesses. And people think that we've come an awfully long way. Women in business have it a lot easier than, say, my grandmother did. Although I often tell the story how it shocks me whenever I'm looking for finance support with my bank. I'm still asked about my husband's income. Still, and it has nothing to do with my business. It's an incredible, you know, there's still a long way for us to go, I think, in terms of women in business being taken seriously. And these are conversations that keep popping up, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
So the Women's Business School, that's at what point? So at what point you've created first a charity, then an online community that you've taken over, and then you've built up the whole AusMumpreneur thing. At what point did you feel ready to say, you know what, I could run a business school for women? At what point did you know that was the obvious next step for you?
I guess within AusMumpreneur, we'd always done like smaller things. We'd done short courses and webinars. We'd held webinars and we had a membership side. But I'd recognized that there was a real need for structured business education, because there's like the Diploma of Business, which is a 12-month course, but it requires 20 hours a week of study. And like, who's got spare 20 hours a week? I don't know anybody who does, who's a mum and is running a business. So we recognized there was a need for it and there was a gap in the market. And the women that we were working with within AusMumpreneur were incredibly intelligent, talented, qualified women, but they didn't necessarily have all of the skills for business. For example, I'm formerly a teacher, so I'm great at working with people, managing projects, all of those kind of skills. I'm all over it. But when it came to sales and marketing, you never have to do that as a primary school teacher. You just turn up, the class is there, you teach them. You don't have to try and market and get students in. So they were things that I'd had to learn about. Finances was another one. You don't do profit and loss statement when you're teaching year 3 maths. It's just not part of it. You never need to know that. And so I recognized that if that was a problem that I had, then other women also were facing these challenges. They had incredible skills from their former careers, but they didn't necessarily have all of the skills you need to run a business. And that's where the idea for the Women's Business School came from. And we've created a program which is designed specifically for women, because there are other business programs out there, but they've been designed for men and they're run by men. And women are different. You know, so we do cover the same topics that you would find in a traditional business course, but we also include some of that more personal development stuff. And we do talk about tapping into your intuition and your creativity, which are more feminine traits traditionally than the, you know, logical and the masculine traits, I guess. Yeah. So we are different. It's a business school designed by women, for women. All of our women are teachers. All of our teachers are women. All of our experienced entrepreneurs and mentors are all women. And yeah, it's a safe and supportive environment for women to come and share and process their ideas. And yeah, it's a beautiful space.
It sounds fantastic. And you've got the new cohort for this year's intake. You're about to launch that, aren't you? Is that right?
Yeah. We're kicking off in April this year, and we run 2 programs. So there's the Ignite course, which is for pre-launch and new businesses, and it just covers all of those fundamentals that you need to start a business: marketing, sales, finances, social media. All of that is covered in Ignite, and we take them through a 6-month program, all delivered online. And then the Accelerate program, which we launched last year, is for more established businesses. And it's for those businesses who have been in business, 5, 10 years or more, and they're ready to step things up. They want to get to that next level. And maybe that's hiring staff and building their team, or maybe it's expanding into new markets within Australia, or bringing out a new product, or going global and taking their products overseas. So Accelerate's designed for that level of business owner, and we cover modules on things like implementing systems and scaling your business and pivoting and developing partnerships, those kinds of things. So it's at a higher level.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, pivoting is something we hear a lot about, and I think, again, it speaks to that entrepreneurial. Someone was saying to me recently that an entrepreneur is someone who's like usually about 3 to 5 years ahead of themselves. They've always got a range of ideas that are bubbling away, and they're quite excited, and they're working towards those ideas. And it might be, as you say, a pivot from where their business currently sits, but they're already thinking about the next thing. How do you encourage business owners, especially mums, where it's so easy to be distracted? I've spent half my life apologizing for emails that I forgot to send, to hit the send button on, because I've been distracted by one or both of my kids. How do you encourage the balance between focusing on what's going on now in your business and that those exciting future visions, the shiny object syndrome, I guess?
Well, we do in the course. We have a strategic action plan. We begin the course with a masterclass day, and we do set all of your goals for the next 12 months. And we look at what's your big picture? All right, bring that back. What's achievable in the next 12 months?
Yep.
And let's focus on that. And let's break that down into steps, and let's set the milestones. Okay, at the end of January, what are you going to have achieved? At the end of February, what are you going to do? And having that roadmap, I think, is really important. And knowing, yes, I want to get to there. I want global domination. But for now, let's just do this and work through these steps to where we're going. And I think having a plan like that and having that kind of focus really does help you move forward with your goals. Yeah. And it does eventually get you to that big vision. But yes, you do need to stay focused and keep going with what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've got the 2 programs in the Women's Business School. You've got the Mumpreneur Awards. You've got plans for a global outreach for business women. How do you keep a balance as a mum? Because that sounds like a lot.
It is a lot. But we're very strategic in how we do things. So at the moment, we're focused on the Women's Business School, and that's what we're doing. We're getting ready for our new intake. We've got the new cohort of students coming along and joining us in the course. So that's our focus for now. And my sister's a really ideas person, and she just comes up with new ideas every day. And I'm like, okay, great. That's a great idea. Write it down. And she's like, why do I always have to write things down? I want to do them now. No, this is what we're doing. Stay focused. And she's like, okay, well, we'll do this. And then once we've done that, we're going to talk about this. And so, we do that. So at the moment, it's the business school. And then after that, we'll launch the awards, and we'll start getting excited about the awards. And then later in the year, we're looking at the US maybe. So, I guess that's how we do it. We're quite strategic in our calendar, in the timing of what we're doing. And we stay focused on one thing at a time. And I think that's where we kind of would have got tripped up in the past. We'd be trying to do a number of things, and that's quite common. Like when you're trying things and you're not sure which one's going to work, you can often be trying to promote all kinds of things, and it sends a confused message. But if you stay focused on one thing at a time, it seems to be the strategy that works for us.
Yeah. I think that the number one question that I get asked when I'm mentoring private practice owners in the mental health setting is how do I know when is the right time to grow my business? Now, one of the analogies I often think of is a little bit like having a baby. There's no perfect time. But what your recollections of your business's growth? How did you know when? What's the advice you would give people asking that question?
That's a really tricky question. I guess you have to feel ready within yourself. It's within you that, you're ready to take the next step, and you're ready to take that risk, because it is a risk. And actually, it's quite a common time that businesses fall apart because they gamble too much. They go too big too soon, and they lose everything. So I think you do have to be quite strategic. You need to look at your financial model and whether your financial model is going to accommodate that growth. Because if you just go, okay, I'm going to get a new office, and we're going to pay this high rent, and I'm going to put all these staff in, but you do that without looking at what's happening in your finances, then it's not going to work, and you're going to be in trouble. So as boring an answer as that is you do have to go and look at what's happening in your numbers and weigh up the risk of taking that next step.
Yeah. So there's that balance between, from what you're saying, is that balance between the practicals, like the dollars, the numbers, but also trusting in yourself. There's a bit of confidence involved there, isn't there? You know, trusting that your instincts are telling you something quite loud, yelling at you, so to speak. So I think many times people are always looking externally, like what are the external things that are going to tell me? Like when a mum's trying to learn how to settle their baby to sleep, what are the things? If I just do this one thing, it's going to make it work. And so I think there's that balance to be found, isn't there, about the external indicators and the internal indicators.
Yeah, but looking within is certainly important as well. Once you've weighed up that risk, you then have to find the courage to take that step too, and that can be a huge thing. And I've found meditation is really valuable in helping me to visualize, you know, what the next step is, and asking for help, getting quiet and asking for help has been really powerful for me. And I did a meditation this week, and I was like, okay, what do I need to do? I know I need to be putting myself out there. And the answer came, you need to be doing more live videos. You need to be filming a live video a day. And I was like, really? Is that what I need to be doing? I can't do that. All these fears came up, and I was like, okay, that means it's exactly what I need to do. I need to step out of this, and actually I need to take that step and do that. And so I got up early the next morning. I did my hair and makeup. I drove to the beach while my husband and all the family were at home, and I recorded a series of 5 videos. And so I just did it. I made myself do it, and I was nervous and scared, but I was like, no, this is what I've got to do to get to that next level. So
well done. I'm impressed.
Thank you. I was proud of myself.
And with that mention of meditation, what about self-care? Self-care for mums. In fact, a colleague of mine in Sydney, Valerie Ling, is a psychologist who does a lot of work around burnout. And one of the things she's also talked about is burnout in parents. But I think that burning the burnout candle at both ends, being a parent and business owner. What are your strategies for self-care? You've got the meditation. How else?
I'm a recovering workaholic. I love working. I could just work all day and all night. But it's not sustainable. No. And, you know, in my first few years in business, I was just working all weekend, and my family would go camping without me. And I just, no, I've just got to do this. You go. And I missed a Father's Day lunch with my husband's grandfather. And that was the last Father's Day we had with him. And I'll never get that back, you know, and I missed that opportunity because I was working too much. And it was a hard lesson, but you have to have boundaries around your time. You have to find time to work, and find time to be with your family, and find time for yourself and your self-care. And so I have now quite strict boundaries around my time. I don't work at night at all, and I don't work weekends at all. I do my work during the day.
How hard was it to put those boundaries in place? How hard was that?
Yeah, in the beginning it was really hard. It was really hard, and it's so tempting, you know, just have your phone on your lap and just like check things during the ad breaks when you're watching TV with your husband. But like, that's not okay.
That's cheating.
Not working. Well, like, are you working or aren't you working? If you're not working, don't work.
Yeah,
you need to have a clear break.
I really do agree. And also that thing about having the phone there. I know that if my phone is in another room on a charger, for example, I'm a lot more relaxed and a lot more present. Even if I don't have the phone in my hand, just knowing that it's right there next to me, I'm not as relaxed as I am when it's in another room. And I can't remember who it was now, but I was watching something. Someone was saying something clever about the power of a phone, like when you're out to dinner or something and the phone's on the table, and the power of that phone and what that conveys to the person sitting opposite you about how much attention you're prepared to give them is another indicator of are you actually, like you say, are you at work or are we at home relaxing together? You know, that togetherness there, that balance there. Yeah,
absolutely.
You see a lot of mums struggling with this, finding this balance and setting boundaries in place.
Yeah. I see it's a real problem because there's people out there who are speaking and telling women, telling everyone that they should be working. You've got to be grinding and hustling all day, every day. And that's the message they're giving. And there's people like Gary Vee, who's a well-respected entrepreneur, who's very successful, who's telling people, I watched one of his videos, he told people, you should be working on Christmas Day. If you are not working on Christmas Day, your competitors will beat you. This is the message he's sending. That is not okay. It's not okay. Because if none of the, what's going to happen to Christmas if none of the mums do anything on Christmas Day? There's no Christmas.
Talk about the Grinch.
Right? Who's running Christmas if the mums aren't?
Yeah.
But of course, like, it's not true. You do not have to work yourself into the ground to be successful. And in fact, the opposite is true. If you become burnout, if you become run down, if you start resenting your business, your clients pick up on that vibe. They don't want to work with you either. And you can work as hard as you like, but if that energy is coming from you that you're not enjoying what you're doing, they're not going to come to you. And so, balance is super important. Really is.
Absolutely agree. And those messages are actually getting louder. There are a number of, Gary Vee's one, there are a number of them out there who really do push these messages. Gary Vee argues that he doesn't argue for working all the time, but then he says things that contradict that. I agree with you. He certainly does. And that whole idea of, I do a lot of work around mindset with some of my mentoring clients, and we talk about the difference between an abundance-based mindset and a scarcity-based mindset. And that fear-driven stuff, if you're not working 25 hours out of a 24-hour day, the other person's going to beat you to the prize. That's real fear-based stuff. And I talk a lot about not allowing too much room for that. You've got to work in a way that is, I guess, speaking more to your values, speaking more to what value you give to your clients, but also what value you get out of the work that you do, as opposed to this, race to the last cupcake kind of sense of how businesses should be run. It's a different world, and I think women are reshaping how we approach that, in inverted commas, cutthroat stereotype about business.
I'm really fascinated by the feminine way of doing business as opposed to the masculine way of doing business, and the idea of working in flow and tapping into your intuition and your creativity and creating a business that works for you. I'm really fascinated by that and the potential for that to change the way that we work. Yeah. And we can see examples, in other countries, certainly some of the European nations where they've got more flexible working arrangements for families, not just for adults in the business sphere, but also for kids, at schools, starting with a gentler approach to education. I think that there's a lot of competitiveness right from the outset in our systems, both our education systems and then leading up through to our business systems in our culture. And that's something that I hope that the increasing number of women in business will help shift, especially the number of mums in business, because there's just not a lot of room for that. You can't be constantly competing with someone else and focusing on what you're trying to achieve in that little school hours window. Yeah. You have to be working in flow and working on things that you're passionate about. Yeah.
Good advice. What would be the one thing if you had like 5 seconds to give someone, grab them by the shoulders and say, really, this is the one thing you need to know if you're embarking on business as a mum? What's the one thing?
Stop being afraid of putting yourself out there. Stop hiding. People want to get to know who you are. You do have a lot to share. You do bring something unique and special, and don't be afraid of showing people what that is. That would be my advice.
Fantastic. How would people find you and the Women's Business School and AusMumpreneur? How would people track you down?
We have websites, so AusMumpreneur.com and thewomensbusinessschool.com. And we're also on social media as well. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and you can find me on LinkedIn as Peace Mitchell as well.
Fabulous. Peace Mitchell, thank you so much for spending some time with us today. It's been such a fascinating discussion, and I love meeting a like-minded mum and business owner, spreading that message to, get out there, stop hiding, do what you're passionate about, but also, find that balance that brings value to your life as a whole person too. Thank you again so very, very much.
Thanks, Tess. I've really enjoyed chatting with you today. It's been fun.
Wonderful. And the rest of you, I will talk to you all again very, very soon. Thank you for joining Peace and I today. Bye-bye for now.